Have you ever thought of your track as a movie? Like a main character, an antagonist, maybe a love story. And of course, a big like tension curve, everything explodes in a moment, it has this kind of script. And actually for music production there's kind of those scripts as well. So today I want to present you the 3-part story build up. It's a technique to build up your track, your breaks in particular, so when you build up the tension towards the drop, in a way that you have 3 different parts. 1, the breathing room, 2, the rise, and 3, the cliff. What that means, we're going to find out now. Okay guys, so in this video, as I said, it's about the break, not about the drop. So we're gonna talk about the 3-part story break. What is it, how to do it, and what you have to have in mind when you want to build up your break like this. So of course, a break in a track nowadays, super important. It's there to lift the energy back from 0 to 100 and get the people hyped for the drop that you are building. And there's many ways to build up your break. And one of the most effective ones is the, as I call it, 3-part story. So first of all, this story is divided into the 3 parts: breathing room, the rise, and the cliff. And we're gonna start by talking about the breathing room. So everything starts with this clap here, which gets this supermassive reverb to open up the break. So you have to imagine that before here there's like a beat going and all of a sudden it stops with this super big clap. Maybe there's some more FX, but like this it already works here. And then first of all, you only most of the times have some atmospheres running, maybe like a soft vocal or something that is very chill, and it should be quiet. This is why I put the render here as well, because you can clearly see that the breathing room part is very quiet. Like here there's almost nothing, here there's a bit of stuff happening, but still not that much. And only when the rise starts you can see that there's more elements coming and the thing gets much louder. So this is one of the aspects that we want to have in mind when we do this breathing room. So for atmosphere, I've used this pad number 2, Unknown, from the Melodic House and Techno preset pack on our shop. It's linked up here. There's many sounds in this project that I used from this pack. And yeah, this pad is just super atmospheric. I also applied a bit of filter here. And we don't want to go too deep into the sound design yet. If you like the sounds, check out the pack on our shop, but this is more about the structuring of such a break. So this is everything that is playing. The clap, then this atmospheric sound, and it takes like more than 10 seconds to go somewhere else. So this is really what breathing room means. Like the people should have a moment of silence, and if you did it right in your DJ set, then probably the people are going to start to clap or something, and like they feel that something is happening already. This is what the breathing room should do. It should suggest that now there's a big journey coming up, way to the top of like the mountain, right? To be like completely on the rise, right? So we want to transition smoothly into this more energetic part of the rise, which is, while in the second part of our breathing room, we are going to lift things up just a little bit. So first of all, I have this sound here. It's the same as the one right before the drop, just with less filter, less cutoff open, right? Feels very low. But it's a very common technique to teaser something, right? We already teased this kind of sound, which has this little pitch band modulation in it. It's coming later, but the people already know it from here. And when it's coming here in the third part of our 3-part story break, then it kind of sounds familiar already. It's in a bit of a new shape because it feels stronger and more present with the open cutoff. So it is a good way to tease it like this. And then we're going to implement just a little part of our lead. We don't implement all this, what you know from the last video, from last week already, but just those super soft lead synth steps, kind of going together with the low pad. And next up, also coming in the second part of the breathing room, we have like just a super soft pad, also from our melodic house and techno Serum Preset pack on the shop. It's pad 16. Play different chords here. And it's also very quiet and opening up towards the rise. So first it's very low on the filter, and then it slowly opens up. And lastly, down here we have this cymbal that we heard on the drop as well. And we are already using it here, but we are coming from the very low cutoff, and we don't give the full energy yet, right? You can see later it opens completely, but here it kind of just opens a little bit here in the middle and then falls back. So you can really feel that the energy is not coming completely yet, right? It's more like teasing already that something will happen, which is also why this sound, for example, is teased once. And it really suggests that now we are transitioning into the next part, into the more energetic part, which is the rise. So in the rise, there's much more happening. Let's look at it. First of all, we have a percussion now, a clap. So one of the main differences between the breathing room and the rise oftentimes is that in the breathing room, there's not really any groove happening, so nothing that the people can really dance to. They're more like floating around, while now in the rise, we give them something to dance to. It could be a filtered kick, it could be some hi-hats, it could be a clap. It really depends on the style that you are doing, like the genre, and also just the way you like it, right? Like your personal taste. So here I wanted to go with the clap to get this kind of, yeah, everybody's clapping, even if they might not do it in a club, but you know what I mean. Like it drives you a little bit more. You feel like, okay, now I have something to dance again, but of course not completely powered because there's no kick and bass. Then the lead synth, of course, we talked about this last video. Now he's coming in full force, and he's accompanied by this arpeggio. That is very, very important. So you can hear what's happening, right? We go from a little less, like cut off, we open it a little bit, we also raise the time, like more decay, more release, and then at the end it kind of fades away. So it, from a small sound, it opens itself up and then it kind of loses itself into the reverb. So this is also a nice way of thinking in such a rise, to introduce something, make it very big, and then at the end let it fade away, so the people also realize that now we are transitioning in the next part, which we're going to talk about in a second. So first of all, one more time, the bass plug, this time in a much more dominating position. Here it was more like, stop, here I am, we break everything, and now we start the rise. And if it comes right here on the one, like right in the middle of the rise, it kicks off all those effects here, which is really like the function it has. Right, we have this, and afterwards we have all those risers. So this is also very typical for the rise, the part B of our 3-part story, to of course have elements that really lift up the energy. So this is from an upcoming pack. So I rendered it. It's really like a nice textured rise, and as I said, it's coming up soon on the shop, so stay tuned for that. And then we have the cymbal sound, and we have a snare roll, typical 606 snare, works very well in this type of sound. And you can see that you introduce a lot of power in this rise situation here. And then with all the snare rolls and cymbals and pitch FX coming in, while we lift it up, we kind of make everything a little bit thinner, like in this section, so the people already realize now we are transitioning into something new. And most of them are expecting to have the drop now. So they wanted to hear something like this. And while this would be kind of cool, why not letting them hang on the cliff for a moment? So now this is part 3 of our 3-part story, the cliff. You can call it whatever you want. It's this little gap right before the drop. Sometimes it's bigger, sometimes it's smaller. This is like medium sized, I would say, right? So you have 4 bars. Essentially, what a lot of people use, and what we use here as well, is the big reverb tail. First of all, right? Everything is rising. And now all the reverbs are slowly fading away. So let's have a look at the reverb here real quick. It's a very long reverb, and we have OTT applied. So that means it's constantly squeezed together. So even if it becomes quieter, actually the OTT will still keep the volume up as long as possible, so it can really flatten out slowly into the presentation of our main sound. So this is one of my favorite techniques to present the main sound in this cliff part before it hits on the drop, right? So instead of just dropping or like having another sound here, like for example a vocal or something, I really like to have the sound that is going to lead later on the drop in some way presented. So after this little like tail of the reverb, essentially we have 2 parts now. First of all, we have this bass plug that we talked about last week. If you haven't watched this video, finish here, take your time, it's all cool, finish this video, but then jump to in the last week's video to learn how this one and this one are made. It's a full in-depth analysis on how those sounds are made, which is why today I'm not going to talk about the sound design, but we're only talking about the arrangement, right? So those 2 plugs, we're kind of introducing the main plug right before the drop, but not 100%, because on the drop we have this even faster notes here, which we don't have here. So we still have a little bit of a like energy difference from here to here. Here it's even more energetic, which is very important, because if we had this here, maybe we lost a little bit of the energy on the drop because the people already knew this. But if they hear this and then they get surprised by those faster notes on the drop, it's even more appealing, right? And lastly, in this cliff, I wanted to have a sound. We referred to it before, it's this one again, but this time with a more open cutoff to kind of transition into the drop. So you could do different stuff. Sometimes they will use snare rolls, they will use another like rising sound. I wanted to use this very low kind of bass sound to kind of suggest that there's a dark thing happening now. And I automated the gain here to 0, something that you should have in mind, because oftentimes there's like release and reverb and everything and echoes, and sometimes you don't want that. You want your drop to be super dry. Like if you would have everything on here, it would kind of like tail over the rest, but we don't want that. We want a complete cut. Kick and bass should set in, and we want our main bass plug to take all the space that is there, right? So this is why we do this little automation here. And this cliff part, it's super, super important to do something meaningful in there, right? Like a few years ago, when this whole concept was like, I would say kind of new to the music production scene. I mean, probably people used it before, but when it got popular, a lot of people would have this. And then only like 1 clap or 2 claps or 4 claps or like 2 snares, whatever. And there goes the drop. But I think over time it evolved into like you should put something like a bit more interesting in this cliff section. So this is why we have those 2 very interesting and strong sounding synth in here. And then we go into the drop. And of course, setting up a good drop is also a story of itself, but not for this video today. This was only about the 3-part rise, and I hope it was very helpful for you to get this kind of more in-depth insight of it. So you can get all the presets from the video, everything that I've used here, also the presets from the packs, like the melodic house and techno pack on our shops. The presets that I've used here, you can get them, download them for free, and play around with them. Maybe build your own 3-part story build up and try to find a good drop for it. Whatever you do, I wish you a great time and keep making music.